Hi there. In this video we'll be covering how do I promote my self-published book. The biggest key to success for any self-published book is you, and you have the power to bring your message across the world. By the end of this video you will learn how to write a book that resonates and what can happen when you put yourself out there. And stay tuned until the end of the video for a free opportunity. Let's dive in. A lot of people think that just having a book is enough. That's not the case. It really has to be a book that connects to a deeper purpose, that connects to readers, that readers are really moved by. You know, it's not enough just to crank out a ChatGPT written book, put a cover on it, put it on Amazon, and things are going to happen for you. That's not how this works. There's so many books out there already. Think about going into a bookstore. Think about going on Amazon and searching. Think about all of the books that have already been published in your specific field, in your area. And that really forces you to dig deeper. It forces you to spend the time to do it right. It forces you to figure out what your message is and why it's different. The biggest first step in being able to promote your book successfully is writing a book that matters, writing a book that resonates, writing a book that stands out. Bringing your uniqueness and bringing your personality and bringing all of your energy into writing a great book. I've worked with authors who tried to rush, who tried to just crank out a book as quickly as they could, didn't spend the time to really unlock the power of their story, and thought that just having the book alone was going to do it. And I check on Amazon a year or two later and they have 3 reviews, and they're all from people the first week it came out, and no one else was ever touched by this book. No one connected to it. It didn't take any other steps. There was nothing more there. It was simply a book that was just pushed out. You don't want that kind of book. You don't want a book that fails. You don't want a book that fails to connect. So it really requires you to dig deep during the writing process, during the planning process. It's important to figure out not what just people are interested in, but what is going to move people. You know, what message is going to resonate with them. It's elusive trying to figure out what's going to be the popular book. You really just need to write the book that's in your heart, the book that's inside of you, but really figure out how it's different. How is your message different than every other message out there? You know, how is your book unique, and how does it say something differently than all the other books that have already been written? Now that you have this powerful book, think about promoting it within your network. You know, take stock in what your network is, whether it's social media, whether it's speaking engagements, whether it's opportunities to connect with people. Think about within your network. You know, who do you know? And who do the people that you know? Who are the people who are going to be most supportive of the book and pushing it out there? How can you best promote it? A lot of times when people publish a book, they start thinking about the promotion after the fact, after they've written the book. Promotion should be something that you're thinking about during the writing process, something that you're building up and ramping up to. If you have 6, 9, 12 months leading up to publication day, what can you do today? What can you do right now? What can you do a week from now, a month from now, to start building up to it? It's not enough just to say, the book's out, now I'm going to promote it. This is a long runway, and there's a lot of opportunity along that runway to build your audience, to build your expertise, to put yourself in this space, and to connect the dots so when the book does come out, it has the strongest launch possible. There's so much you can do leading up to the book launch that can help you have the strongest launch possible. The other thing you can do is think about outside of your network. A lot of times when authors publish a book, they immediately think about hiring a marketer or promoter that's going to help them push this book to the masses. You know, they spend $10, $20, $15,000, whatever the case may be, and nothing happens. It's so important as you're thinking about this process to think about working with promoters who have experience in the space that you're in. If you're writing a sports book, for example, work with someone who's established at promoting sports books, because ultimately the company or people that you work with to promote your book are going to focus on their platform and their connections and their network. You're really paying for access to their network when you're working with a book marketer. And the strength of their network could help or not help you. How does their network align with the book that you've written, and how can they help you connect to that audience? You know, if there's a great overlap and you think that there's a lot of opportunity here, Maybe they've been successful with other books like yours. Great. You know, a lot of times people might pay for a month or 2 months or 3 months of service with a company, and the company will line up interviews for them. Some of the interviews are pretty good, but they don't drive sales. The reason they don't drive sales is because they're not the right target audience. They're not who needs to hear this message. You think of working with the promoter and working with different media outlets or podcasts to do interviews. It's a big step to go from somebody listening to the interview or reading about it to want to go buy the book. So there needs to be something in your message that resonates with them. So ultimately, everything that you do should be reader focused in some way. How is this going to engage the reader? How is this going to get them excited? You know, what audience is going to be most impacted by this story and want to read it? I think back to some of the books that I published. You know, I published a book about a baseball player named Ken Caminiti, and my publisher actually signed up to work with a book publicist who does a lot of sports books, which was a really positive step because I didn't have access to those things. And maybe the publisher didn't have the same connections that the publicist did. So it worked out that way. I have seen other people who spent lots of money to work with the publicist and didn't get returns at all. A lot of times they'll promote these things and say, we can reach X number of people with our newsletter, and we can do this and we can do that. It's all kind of smoke and mirrors sometimes. You know, it's all kind of hokey. And it's a dance that the publicist will jump through to say that, you know, I can get you X number of eyeballs. Just because they can get you eyeballs doesn't mean that they're the right eyeballs. Doesn't mean that they're the right ears. Doesn't mean these are the people that need to hear your message. So when you talk to a publicist and consider working with someone, ask them about similar books that they've worked on. Ask them about the success that they've had with books like yours. You know, ask them about their network and the ability to connect your message and your book to the right audience, because you need to get to the right audience. If you don't get to the right audience, your book isn't going to have the impact you hope it will. Another great way to promote your book is through author events, in-person events, book signings at bookstores, speeches, things that can put you front and center in front of people that allow you to connect on that one-on-one level. It's been so awesome for me when I've written books to be able to do author events, book signings, to connect with people, to talk to them about the book. It's a special thing. It's a special connection, and it's a different kind of connection than simply a transactional process of buying something on the internet or buying something even at the bookstore. They can actually talk to you and ask you questions, and that give and take can be so beneficial. You can build so many great relationships that way. By putting yourself out there, by being front and center, you know, it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing to go to an event. It's a scary thing to wonder if people are going to show up. It's a scary thing to think about the turnout and is this going to connect. And I think about some of the books that I've worked on and some of the people I've collaborated with on their projects, and it doesn't always mean a big crowd. I think back to a friend of mine, Rich. He wrote a very heartfelt, tender book about his family and about finding his true identity through his adulthood and finding healing in that process. You know, he did a little mini book tour and went to different author events and had, you know, a different turnout at each one and different connections at each one. And he did this book signing at this bookstore in New York. And it was 5 of us, you know, and he wasn't really interested in the number of people. It was about the connection. It was about the conversation. We had such a strong conversation, you know, the 5 of us, and really just talked through the whole book, and it was so awesome. I look at that as a huge success. You know, some people might look at that and say, that was a failure, only 5 people showed up. But what if they're the right 5 people? You know, what if you can build this connection and this engagement? If you would have had a crowd of 20 people or 30 people or 40 people, it would have been a different conversation. It was so awesome to see that. And it was a reassuring thing for me that, you know, he was moved by it. He wasn't worried about, oh, so many people showed up. Like, it was about the connection. It was about the underlying sentiment. It was about the feelings that we all had, you know, being able to talk through the story. And it was so special to be able to share that moment with him. You know, and then I think back to other times, other events. Another person I worked with, Jonathan Stanley, he was at this book signing, and this moment of him sitting at this table and not selling as many copies of the book, this video was posted on TikTok and went super viral, and he ended up getting 750,000 TikTok followers overnight and sold tens of thousands of copies of his book. It was all because he showed up. If you have a really powerful message and you put yourself out there, things can happen. But it's about putting yourself out there. It's about taking that step. It's about taking that chance, because you never know who's going to show up. You never know who's paying attention. You never know who's watching. And you can take this message that you're carrying inside of you and bring it out to the world. But it's really about taking the steps. It's about being pragmatic. It's about being smart about it, because you can dump tens of thousands of dollars into this and not see any returns. So it's got to be something internal that drives you and moves you to say, this matters to me. But it's also about being smart where you're spending your money and your time and your effort. A lot of the authors I work with, when they're building up to publication day and on forward, they think about the deficiencies. Oh, I'm not so good on LinkedIn. I'm not so good on other social media sites. I have to focus on Instagram. Focus on where your efforts are best suited. If you like Instagram, if Instagram's your thing, go for it. If it's not, and you don't really care about it, don't worry about it. I think it's really about pouring your energy into the best places instead of thinking about being everywhere. If you want to go start recording YouTube videos, awesome. But if that's not something that's interesting for you, don't do it. It's about being inside your wheelhouse, being confident in yourself, and focusing on the 2 or 3 areas where you can be best, where you can be your strongest, and where you're engaged, because this is a long-term process. Don't burn yourself out thinking you need to go post every day and do this and this and this. Post your thing, put yourself out there, and then continue on with your day. But by taking the right steps, by being smart, by building your platform as much as you can, and by building connections ahead of time in the lead up to this launch period, and then on forward, you can have so much success with your book. But it's about being smart, it's about putting yourself out there, and it's about doing the things that drive you. It's easy to say, this isn't fun anymore, I want to stop. You want to keep going. You want to keep doing. You want to keep believing in it. So find the things that matter to you, find the things that resonate the most, and fill you with joy, and keep doing them. If you want to learn more about how do I promote my self-published book, you'll definitely want to watch another video I recorded. I'll link to it on the screen. It's called Is Writing a Book Worth It? In that video, I focus on the opportunities and the doors that can be opened from writing a book, and just the awesomeness that can follow. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.